seen, maybe you've never seen. Thank you for this hour that you provided for us. Lord, thank you for this young man that you have anointed for this day and time. Thank you, Lord, for giving him the vision to see what it is like for all of us. Thank you, Lord, for the city of South Bend. Thank you, God, for how you have given us an opportunity to work with one another, hand in hand. How we come together as it was on the day of Pentecost. Lord, we are your children, looking for guidance. As we do now, Lord, anoint the lips of flame. This young man is going to deliver the word today, that we can see unstopped, the deaf ears to be heard. Open up the blind eyes. Touch the hearts that we can feel. Asking you to have your way in this room tonight. Summon your presence as we sit and give you the glory for all that you have. We're thanking you in advance for what you're going to do. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand if you are able to hold me of the colors of South Bend. The Police Department and South Bend Fire Department. Honor God.
America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Good evening. My name is Karen White. I have served as an at-large council member since 2000. Currently, I'm the president of the South Bend Common Council. This evening, I have the pleasure and honor to welcome each of you to the 2021 State of City Address that will be delivered by our Mayor, James Mueller. It is so wonderful and exciting to see so many of you out, and especially in person. Great things have been happening in our city, a city I love, a city I am proud to call home. At this time, I would like to acknowledge the Common Council members. When I call your name, I would ask that you stand and remain standing. First District Representative, Councilman Kenneth Lee. Second District Representative, Councilman Henry Davis, Jr. Third District Representative, Councilwoman Sharon McBride, is unable to be with us this evening. Fourth District Representative, Councilman Troy Warner, who I believe is unable to be with us as well. Fifth District Representative, Councilman Eli Wax, is unable to be with us as well. 6th District Representative, Councilwoman Sheila Niskowski. At-large council members, Councilwoman Lori Hammond. At-large council member, Councilwoman Rachel Thomas Morgan. In addition, I would like to recognize our city clerk, Clerk Don Jones. Would you please stand? If there are any other elected officials in the audience, I do ask that you stand at this time. Seeing none, let's give these council people, women, men, and our city clerk a round of applause. You may be seated. Mayor Mueller is our city's 33rd mayor. He was sworn into office on January the 1st, 2020. What a year 2020 was for our country, our world, and very much our very own city. In 2020, COVID-19 set the stage for what could be a year none of us would have ever expected would last, and one that we should never forget, nor in fact should we. It closed businesses, took away jobs, homes, prohibited human interactions, and kept us in lockdown and fearful of the unknown. Keep in mind, this all began within weeks of the mayor taking his office. What a time to be a mayor. For the first time also in the city of South Bend, the city and the mayor witnessed the historic women composition of the South Bend Common Council. Let's give a round of applause for these outstanding women. I'm a little biased, so I'll continue with my introduction of the mayor. Mayor Mueller's leadership during the pandemic and the city's role in responding to the pandemic will be a part of the early portion of the mayor's speech this evening. What an unprecedented first year to be mayor. What an awesome opportunity to lead the city through these tough times. The mayor did not hesitate to hit the ground running, and he has been running ever since. Now should you say, wow, 2020 was a year unlike any other. I would agree. However, the year included another very important time in the life of our mayor. Our mayor, James Mueller, married his fiancée, Kelly. Congratulations. When asked whether he would take time off for a honeymoon, his spokesperson said, "It's budget time, and there's a council meeting on Monday night, so no time off." Who would have done that? Kelly, thank you for being so understanding. Now, they did take a honeymoon. I believe it was during the month of June or July. Vacation. Oh, you know what? We're going to have to get on the mayor. He's going to have to take a honeymoon, okay? Kelly, that's in your hands, okay? So in closing, I would like to say the entire Common Council and I look forward to working closely with the mayor as we continue to move our city forward. So now put your hands together and welcome our mayor, Mayor James Mueller, as he delivers his first State of the City address.
Thank you, and thank you, President White, for the kind introduction. Hopefully you haven't gotten me in too much trouble at home, but we'll find out soon enough, I guess. Good evening, South Bend. It's so wonderful to be back here in the Great Hall of the Century Center, able to gather once again and share the latest chapter in our story. When I took office here last January, I highlighted the need for our community to unite around a common purpose, one not realized yet in our long history, one of shared prosperity, establishing South Bend as a home where everyone can thrive. After many decades of decline since Studebaker closed its doors, we had finally turned the corner during the last decade. We entered this decade as a city on the rise, with renewed hope and ambition. We stood ready to build on our progress, take our growth to the next level, and make the long overdue systemic changes to empower everyone to thrive. Now, little did we know then that a microscopic virus was already spreading halfway around the world, and that that virus would completely upend our lives for over a year. Our city is no stranger to adversity, and our resilience has prevailed once again. We have emerged stronger than ever, and today we have a once-in-a-generation opportunity to transform our community together and build the South Bend we all know we can be, a home where everyone can thrive. I'm proud of the way our city responded to the crisis during the past year. No one could have foreseen what would be in store for us. But during a year of extreme challenges, we adapted and learned our strength. We saw small businesses that make up the rich fabric of our community innovate to survive. Our neighbors stepped up to support each other, and we wore masks and sacrificed our social lives to protect one another. For a nation who values individual responsibility and liberty, we relearned that our destinies are in fact linked. We were reminded that we truly are all in this together. Even Congress set aside partisan bickering, albeit briefly, to provide critical resources to fight the virus and save our livelihoods. For many, there was also reflection about the purpose in life. With fresh perspective and renewed imagination, our future is being shaped in new ways, full of new possibilities. Thank you to our first responders and medical community who are on the front lines of our fight. We are forever grateful for your sacrifices. Thank you to our essential workers, from grocery store employees to postal workers to tradesmen and women, who kept the economy running while also dealing with the risk of being exposed to the virus. Thank you to those who adapted to working from home and helped slow the spread while also keeping the economy moving. Now, moving to the city team, I'm proud of these men and women who stepped up in so many ways to respond to the public health and economic emergencies that we faced. Our firefighters continue to provide the services we all rely upon to stay safe. EMS cared for and transported 423 COVID patients and thousands more under COVID precautions. Our public works employees in streets, wastewater, water, and other divisions continued their important work to ensure that we have the basic necessities that are so easy to take for granted. Our solid waste team picked up 70 million pounds of trash, 9 million more than that in 2019. Our utility team instituted a moratorium on shutoffs to ensure that our residents maintained access to safe drinking water despite the challenging economy. Our team in Venue Parks and Arts answered the call to assist with emergency food distribution and help package 100,000 meals at Cultivate Food Rescue. VPA did that while also finding new and creative ways for our residents to enjoy our public spaces safely and holding over 60 free events. The VPA team also stepped up to host e-learning sites at our community centers to support working families and to ensure our kids were still able to attend class virtually. Our community investment team found creative ways to support our residents and small businesses, filling in the gaps left by higher levels of government. That included awarding 135 innovation grants to support locally owned restaurants, setting up an emergency isolation and quarantine center almost overnight. That was no small feat. We received a $7.7 million competitive grant from the U.S. Economic Development Administration to support a new revolving loan fund to support local businesses impacted by COVID, and providing rental utility assistance to 292 households in partnership with St. Vincent de Paul, Real Services, and AIDS Ministries. Our team in Innovation and Technology transitioned hundreds of city workers to remote work and be able to meet virtually. In partnership with the South Bend Schools, INT helped win a multi-partner grant to provide free broadband access to thousands of students via the citywide Classroom South Bend program. INT was also integral in assisting with data needs surrounding the pandemic, including the development of a dashboard in partnership with County Health to keep our community informed about the uptake of vaccine and ongoing cases in St. Joseph County. Our diversity and inclusion team spearheaded a number of new efforts this year, including the recent Small Business Launchpad event that was held at the Charles Black Center. They hosted weekly neighborhood business labs during the height of the pandemic and awarded 60 small business resiliency grants to those that were having trouble accessing the financing they need to survive. They also implemented the Inclusive Procurement and Contracting Program for the first time in our city's history. City's legal department drafted the emergency declaration and executive orders issued during the pandemic, as well as providing support throughout the crisis with so many of our departments facing unprecedented challenges. Human Resources stepped up to contact trace when city employees became infected and made sure we adopted the best practices to limit the spread in the workplace. Our administration and finance team prepared us for a variety of economic recovery scenarios and maintained our AA bond rating even during the worst of the crisis. And finally, our Common Council. Our Common Council members have been strong leaders for our community during this trying year and continued to move important priorities forward. Council members, I and the city are grateful for your continued service to our community. Our partners in county government rose to the occasion as well, particularly our health department, led by Dr. Bob Einterns. St. Joseph County was at the forefront of the strategy to deploy masks as an effective approach to slow the spread while also reopening our economy last May. Special thanks to Dr. Mark Fox, Jeff Ray, and Andy Castelny, who worked diligently to coordinate our response efforts, forge a unified message, and keep residents informed throughout the public health crisis. Of course, the vaccination clinic at St. Hedwig was a resounding feat. Thank you to all the volunteers and workers who made that possible. And let's give a round of applause to show our appreciation for our public health officials. Maybe this can get me back in a little good graces here. I also want to acknowledge the efforts of my wife and your First Lady, Kelly. She and the Mitros family spent countless hours this spring administering shots and assisting with check-in. This past year may be one that many might like to forget. In our county alone, 568 of our neighbors lost their lives to COVID-19. They leave behind friends and families who will forever miss them. Many more still struggle to overcome chronic complications from this deadly virus. Many of our seniors were forced to live in isolation, separated from loved ones. Teachers, parents, kids had to persevere through e-learning. E-learning has become a four-letter word in a lot of households. And families and businesses fought for their very survival. But there can be no going back. We will not return to those dark days. We have the power to put this pandemic behind us once and for all. We must do everything we can to get more vaccines in arms. We cannot rest or become complacent until the threat is gone. Mask recommendations are back because not enough of us took the personal responsibility to protect ourselves, to protect our families, and to protect our neighbors. Stronger measures on vaccines must be pursued before we even consider any more measures that restrict our livelihoods. The full fallout from social distancing measures to stop the spread was unlike anything we'd seen. Violent crime rose across the nation, and our city was not immune. 133 shooting victims last year alone. This senseless gun violence is tearing our community apart. Too many of our kids are losing their lives by ending up in prison or ending up dead. We need to work together as a community to get our youth on a better path. I'm proud of the work of our new Office of Community Initiatives and what they've done to set up the South Bend Alive grant program. In its inaugural year, 50 local organizations are working within our community to engage our youth. Going forward, we will apply the lessons learned and focus these Alive grants on areas and partners that are having the biggest impact. We will also look to expand our street outreach efforts in combination with this grant program. You've heard this for a number of years, but we have the Group Violence Intervention Strategy, GVI, here, and it's a national model of collaboration among law enforcement agencies, social service providers, and the community. Last year, GVI served over 500 people, conducted 182 custom notifications with at-risk individuals, offering them a chance to change their path. 18 accepted job opportunities. Our Strategic Focus Unit is a part of that strategy and works to identify and apprehend the groups that account for the majority of violent acts throughout our city. In 2020, that unit made 158 arrests. There's always room to improve our GVI implementation, especially as we see shooting numbers spike here at home. And that's why we're conducting an audit with the National Network for Safe Communities to find out how we can translate our efforts to the level of success that we've seen in other communities. Our police department is committed to continuous improvement and leading in 21st century policing practices. Our shared goal is a safe community for everyone. In 2020, we took important steps to implement a discipline matrix that provides a transparent structure for progressive discipline and accountability. SBPD also worked diligently with the Board of Public Safety, faith leaders, and community members on an updated use of force policy that carefully balances all interests and incorporates important elements from the community, including a prohibition on chokeholds and emphasizing deadly force as a last resort only. We also answered the community's call for a community review board to build trust with our residents and officers. Although it's been a bumpy start, the Common Council and I are committed to getting it back on track. Moving forward, our department will implement new de-escalation training and continue to move forward on the recommendations outlined by the 21st Century Policing Report. Let's go to some stats from last year with our police department while we're on that. Over the past year, SBPD took 440 illegal firearms off the street, worked approximately 600 drug-related cases, and responded to over 96,000 calls for service. Out of all of these calls for service, only 36 complaints were filed by the community. I'll let you do the math on the percentage there. Last year, our 220-plus officers who work around the clock every day of the year averaged less than one use of force per week and only had 2 complaints from the community. In South Bend, we stand with our officers and their dedicated public service. We support their efforts to maintain peace in our streets and deliver justice for victims. One way we showed our appreciation and support was through a substantial pay increase for our officers in the latest contract. We need more officers, and we will increase our efforts to recruit more members of our communities to serve. If you know someone who's interested in public service, I hope you'll encourage them to apply to be part of our SBPD team. Technology enhances our response and helps us solve crimes. As we look to expand the deployment of technologies like ShotSpotter, cameras, and license plate readers, more private-public partnerships will be critical to our success. Our partners in the county for public safety also need our support. We must provide competitive wages for our dispatchers who answer emergency calls and our prosecutors who work to keep shooters and violent offenders off of our streets. We cannot kick the can down the road any further. Our 911 center needs adequate resources to succeed. When a resident faces life or death and calls for help, we must answer and respond each and every time. Even with the economic uncertainty of the past year, projects and investments still move forward. Hope that we would emerge from the pandemic stronger than ever has prevailed. Nearly $117 million of new investment was announced from 2020 through the first half of this year and supported over 500 jobs. And in case you somehow missed the news during quarantine, Trader Joe's will open its doors in South Bend within a matter of weeks. After years of petitions, we finally reeled them in, during a pandemic nonetheless. Also, Barnes & Thornsburg recommitted to South Bend with the first new downtown office building in decades. The Hibbard Building welcomed South Bend Brew Works and Ragamuffin, which posted an impressive streak of selling out every day as our economy reopened last summer. The main library project is on track to open this fall, and our West Side Main Street corridors are seeing new life with the reopening of Swalesville on Lincoln Way West and a new grocery store underway on Western Avenue. And now, thanks to the American Rescue Plan, we have a once-in-a-generation chance to transform our city, accelerate our growth, and increase opportunities for everyone. We know that growth in a Rust Belt city does not happen easily, and that our turnaround has been hard-fought. We must bring that same fight to this moment. We must continue to support growth aggressively and leverage more private-public partnerships. Our road to shared growth will require us to take bold action, work together, and lift each other up. And that's not just within city limits, but also the broader South Bend Elkhart region. New jobs in Elkhart or new attractions elsewhere in the region make us all stronger. We must compete globally together as a region. And our region is positioned to take a giant step forward with nearly $1.6 billion of projects and programs proposed across our region for the State's Ready program. This is something we'll be talking about and you'll be hearing about more in the coming weeks, but we're excited about what's being proposed and what may come next. Throughout our history, our city has been lifted by immigrants. The same is true today. Our recent population growth has been driven almost entirely by immigrants. So to continue our growth, South Bend must be a welcoming city full of opportunity. And our road to shared growth progresses through fostering innovation and entrepreneurship, creating vibrant public spaces in neighborhoods, and expanding access to opportunity. Excuse me. Fostering an ecosystem of innovation and entrepreneurship is critical for success in today's economy. Growth sectors are led by emerging new companies and knowledge-based industries. Let's be clear. There's no cavalry coming to save us. But that's okay. We have all of the pieces here within our community. Our local colleges, universities, and professional programs will provide the foundation for us to thrive into the future, no matter what economic winds may prevail. South Bend continues to be a place where people come to try new ideas. Just recently, our partners in the Lifelong Learning Initiative, Bendable, announced that they'll be expanding to serve the state of Maine's library system. Notre Dame's Industry Labs is supporting General Stamping, Lock Joint Tube, and Schaefer Gear by bringing two of our community strengths together: our innovation assets and our existing manufacturing know-how. And as an urban mayor, I never dreamed our city would be an agriculture producer. That was until I toured Pure Green Farms and saw the place for myself. The technological operation going on there to grow leafy greens in the greenhouse on the southwest side of town seems straight out of a sci-fi movie. And you should go if you get a chance. Take a look yourself. As opportunities grow out of innovation and entrepreneurship, creating vibrant public spaces and neighborhoods will increase our quality of life and help us to attract and retain more people. This vibrancy depends on great physical places as well as people, community, arts, and culture to activate them. Our predecessors invested in South Bend icons like the Potawatomi Zoo, East Race, Century Center, the Morris, and Kovalevsky Stadium. We must continue to invest into our existing assets and maximize their potential as we look to invest in new places and new spaces. We're approaching the end of a historic $52 million private and public investment into the MySB Parks and Trails program. This program has included complete overhauls of the Charles Black Center, Pinhook Park, Pulaski Park, and of course, Howard Park. MySB Parks and Trails has also included smaller but equally important work throughout our neighborhood parks on athletic courts, playgrounds, and restroom facilities. That work continues as we look at upcoming improvements to Sites Park, the Coal Line Trail, the Western Riverfront, and the O'Brien Fitness Center. And with all this, we are a national leader with our comprehensive plan to make system-wide improvements. This year, Venue Parks and Arts is one of 4 finalists for the National Recreation and Parks Association Gold Medal Award. One of 4, and only one gets recognized annually. So good luck. Next week, our VPA team hosts the first Best Week ever since the start of the pandemic, giving us all an opportunity to celebrate our community and gather once again. As part of the Morris 100-year anniversary celebration, we've put forth an ambitious vision to renovate and expand the Morris, totaling $30 million of public and private investment. The bulk of the city's portion will come from the hotel motel tax proposal currently pending with our county council. This bipartisan proposal comes from our state senators David Nizgotsky and Ryan Mishler, and state representatives Maureen Bauer and Dale Devon, that would bring in more revenue from out-of-town guests to invest in places like the Morris, the zoo, and other attractions across our county. Our state legislators were busy this year. Those same state senators and representatives also passed the state compact with the Pokagon Band, as well as the restoration of the professional sports and convention development area that keeps dollars here in South Bend that otherwise would go downstate. And those dollars can be reinvested in places like Four Winds Field. It's an exciting time for South Bend Cubs. They've made the cut to advance to the new minor league baseball system and expand their impact downtown. This year, we also welcomed our latest professional sports team to South Bend, the South Bend Lions soccer team. With the conclusion of their first season, we congratulate the players for representing South Bend so well and thank everyone for supporting the team. To make more vibrant neighborhoods, we must connect them to our engines of activity, downtown and neighborhood main streets. That's why we're continuing to invest in our West Side Main Streets plan, the latest on Lincoln Way West around Olive. On the horizon are further investments in our neighborhood main streets across every part of town. We must also leverage our community assets in neighborhoods to activate them. One example of the work our engagement and economic empowerment team is doing is hosting a pop-up farmers market outdoors at Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Center. These will be held on the first Sunday in the months of August, September, and October. The King Center, with its surrounding park, is a great example of a community asset that we can leverage more to generate a greater impact on the surrounding neighborhood and the broader community. And that's why I believe the time is ripe to transform the King Center to a Dream Center at Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Park. You haven't even heard what it's about, but okay. We can build a world-class, intergenerational community center, inspiring hope for us all. This is a concept that will be developed by the community and for the community. Resources may include small business incubation, educational opportunities, health resources, recreational activities, technology access, and creative programming. In tandem with the Dream Center's development, we are taking intentional steps to revitalize the Linden Avenue corridor. Deeper partnerships with community organizations will be critical to the programmatic success of this new center. And although it's in the very early stages, I am confident we can marshal the necessary city resources and community partners to make this a reality. Now let's applaud for that. Let's make this a reality. The path to shared prosperity requires that we address the wrongs of the past and ensure all residents have access to opportunity. As more has fallen to cities to address systemic issues, we depend on our great community partners to move the needle on some of our most challenging issues. Utilizing dollars from the American Rescue Plan and other funding sources, we plan to ramp up the development of safe, affordable housing here in South Bend. That will include working with partners in our neighborhoods who've already been doing important work to revive our city's housing stock and to remediate lead in homes. We will also look to local agencies and other partners who may be interested in expanding their efforts in South Bend. We're also encouraged by the South Bend Housing Authority's new leadership team, and we'll look to see how the city can help rebuild trust and turn the ship around after years of mismanagement, fraud, and corruption. We'll continue to develop additional permanent supportive housing units to assist our unsheltered neighbors, and we'll keep working with our county partners on the development of a gateway center that can help stabilize those who are chronically homeless. We're also working with our county partners to expand mental health facilities and services to meet the real need that exists in our community. With new funding from the American Rescue Plan and last year's referendum, our South Bend schools have the resources to attract and retain talent, improve academics, right-size the district, and enhance the cradle-to-career system, including the expansion of pre-K and the establishment of a career center. The path to opportunity starts with supporting our kids at the very start of their educational experience. And over the next 3 years, the city will partner with the United Way of St. Joseph County and others to add more than 300 new seats for high-quality, affordable early childhood education here in South Bend. And as part of that effort, we're excited to break ground very soon on the new community center in the southeast neighborhood. With great places to live, work, and play, and opportunities to pursue, we also need convenient ways to move among these places and opportunities. We're currently working with regional partners and MACOG to assess our transportation systems and identify what steps we need to take next. We're also partnering with the United Way to expand our Commuters Trust program which has provided over 10,000 free or discounted rides to workers struggling with transportation. With United Way, we'll expand our program to a dozen local nonprofits later this year who will offer rides to these residents struggling to access food, health care, jobs, and other critical services. And as our city continues to move forward, it's vital that we build a strong base for our future with necessary improvements to our city's infrastructure. That includes our water and sewer infrastructure, as well as our streets and neighborhood infrastructure. Like many cities in the Rust Belt, suburban sprawl and population loss left us with an unsustainable infrastructure system to maintain. The cost of maintenance went up, and the number of people in the city went down. For our street system, it led to difficult choices in the past. The focus has been on paving the busiest thoroughfares, leaving many neighborhood streets to crumble and decay. For our water and wastewater infrastructure, we were forced to use stopgap measures that did not always address the underlying issues. Strategies like these are not sustainable. They're short-sighted. And that's why I've made it a priority to tackle our critical investment needs. The Rebuilding Our Streets plan calls for $25 million of investment over the next 3 years to repair and rebuild South Bend streets. Prioritizing those in worse shape first, we will touch and improve more than 1/4 of our city's streets over the next 3 years. And, if you've noticed, we've already been improving streets and neighborhoods that haven't been touched in decades. There are also necessary capital investments in our water and wastewater systems to ensure reliable services for our residents. These include the next round of investments mandated by the federal government to reduce sewer overflow events. As our long-term control plan is renegotiated and finalized, we will continue to clean up the river while saving ratepayers hundreds of millions of dollars. We run a lean operation with lower rates than many of our peer cities. This has led to deferred investments in critical capital. The city team has proposed a comprehensive 5-year rate package that will provide the resources to make necessary improvements without a large jump in rates. Expanded relief for low-income residents will ensure our most vulnerable are protected. This rate package is a critical piece to our long-term success. Good governance requires a long view of how our actions impact our city's future. That's why we have the long-term plan to rebuild our streets, as well as this 5-year plan to fund and improve capital for our utilities. We will continue to develop these long-term sustainable plans that address our city's needs in an achievable and fiscally responsible way. Now, I believe that the rate and capital improvement plan our team filed with council is the best path forward for our city. It provides the funds necessary for our critical infrastructure while also preserving resources for higher impact investments in our neighborhoods. Unfortunately, there do not seem to be enough votes for it to pass through Common Council. I'm willing to compromise to make this happen. This is too important for any of us to allow the perfect to be the enemy of the good. Now to my council colleagues, let's find the right compromise and get this done. This past year has reminded us the profound impact that global issues can have on the local level. Like the global pandemic, where many response efforts occurred at the local level, local government has a big role to play in our climate solutions. Climate change is no longer a hypothetical or a projected future. It's real, and it's here now. Heat waves across the country are resulting in record high temperatures this summer. Extreme rainfall is leading to heavy flooding. We can see it with our own eyes and in our own city. We must meet this challenge with urgency. To meet our goal of becoming carbon neutral by mid-century, we are focused on transitioning to cleaner energy and making our city more energy efficient. South Bend is ready to take action. We must start taking bolder actions now. Transitioning to cleaner energy means that solar power must become a growing part of South Bend's future. I'm sure many of you wondered, having a mayor with a PhD in ocean science and experience in national energy policy and solar policy, when this might come useful for our city. This is it. This is the time. This is the issue. It never gets old, I'm sorry. Over the next 2 years, we'll aim to install more than 1 megawatt of solar power on rooftops in South Bend. For those of you asking what a megawatt means, that's 3,000 solar panels on rooftops here in South Bend. As we mobilize to meet that goal, the city team will work to implement new incentive programs for solar and energy efficiency upgrades in coordination with our home repair program to ensure that our low-income residents can share in the benefits of solar and energy-efficient technologies. This work reduces energy costs for homes while reducing carbon emissions and protecting our environment. It will also support installation jobs right here in South Bend and keep more wealth in our community. Instead of sending dollars to utilities and investors outside of the state to power our homes and buildings, these dollars can be saved and reinvested here in our local economy. Earlier this year, we celebrated and flipped the switch on the St. Joseph Solar Farm northeast of South Bend, a partnership between AEP and the University of Notre Dame. Larger utility-scale solar installations like this one will also be a part of our cleaner energy future. To achieve our ambitious goals, we must renew our focus on consensus-based governance, founded on compromise and empathy for our neighbors. We were all shocked and horrified by the killing of George Floyd and the insurrection at our Capitol. The future of our inclusive, pluralist democracy has been placed into question. Every generation must recommit to the promise of our democracy and to the advancement of racial justice. Over the past year, we have learned more about the racial and economic disparities that existed before the pandemic, as well as those disparities that have been exacerbated by the crisis. We are at a critical juncture in our city's and nation's history, and this moment is not unlike the one Dr. King, nearly 60 years ago, referred to as, quote, the fierce urgency of now. Now is the time for bold action, not half measures, and not playing it safe. It is an honor and a privilege to serve as your mayor during this moment in the history of our city. Let's unite around our common purpose and seize this once-in-a-generation opportunity to transform our community. Together, we will put the pandemic behind us once and for all. Together, we will ensure a safe community for everyone. Together, we will create more vibrant public spaces and neighborhoods. Together, we will build an inclusive economy with access to opportunity and shared growth. Together, we will confront the climate emergency. Together, we will advance racial justice. Together, we will make South Bend a home where everyone can thrive. May God bless our sworn officers and firefighters, and may God bless the city of South Bend. Thank you. Good night.